Yeah, and typically I would tee it up with a little bit of background and history and how this came about, what was going on. This was random as it gets. We were sitting around one day talking about something months ago. Shit blew up at the NBA trade deadline, the NFL, the Super Bowl, Travis Kelsey, Pat Mahomes, three-peat. Like we just couldn't get it in, which is great because there's no such thing as a bad week in sports when there's news. But we were talking like back before it was 6 degrees outside. Um, about the role refs play in games. You got the Tim Donaghy thing. As Browns fans, we always remember every bad call we ever got from every season because they're always out to get us. We were like, what are the worst, right? And maybe the best, but like when you think about over the course of your sports fandom, what are the best and worst moments for refs? Because I always was taught. I refed hockey when I was little, and I ref really little kids when I was like 12, 13, 14. But even from a young age, they go, the best refs are like offensive linemen. They don't know your name. They don't talk about you. You go
Hmm.
out and do your job, and there's no reason to know that, that's Angel Hernandez behind the plate because you do your job at a high enough level that you never get mentioned. So the goal is to not be infamous if you're a ref, but we know it happens. And with that in mind, the question is, and Erik, I'll have you go first on this one. What are the worst and best referee calls and moments in sports history for you?
So the way that I looked at this, I wanted to pull one from each of the three major leagues. Sorry, hockey, I left you out, but America has three major sports leagues, so I chose one from each. The first one, I'm going to get mad just talking about this because this has been stuck in my craw since 2018. The Browns are playing the Raiders. It's at Oakland. You got the baseball field on the field, the old Oakland, before they were in Vegas. And they had wrapped this game up. They essentially needed a first down in order to finish out the game. And um, Carlos Hyde, the Ohio State running back, was the Browns' back at the time. He gets a first down. It's called a first down on the field. Game over, right? Well, they review it. They call it back. He was short of the line to gain. And the game would eventually go into overtime, and the Browns would lose. It was like a 42-40 kind of game. Like it was a massive scoring game. It was interesting. I want
Mhm.
Noah to roll this clip. First of all, I apologize for the quality because I think the NFL has scrubbed the internet of this so that nobody can see it. But thankfully, we have a Browns fan out there that recorded his TV, so we have the clip. Let's roll it.
Anything to change is enough to change it. That's just Carlos Hyde fighting. Look at him fight for those extra yards. That's definitely an unofficial line. It's superimposed.
So, as they said on the clip there, the line was unofficial, but they looked at it 10 times. The announcers, he got a first down. It was so clear it was a first down. They review it, not a first down. Raiders go on to win that game. I know, John, you're going to talk about another infamous moment in Cleveland Browns sports refereeing, but how you can have like clear empirical evidence, like that's clear as day. I don't know if you guys disagree with me, but that is clear as day. There was some arm down. You would have to move the angle, but I remember watching it live and being blown away that they blew this call. And it was one of those seasons where I don't know if you remember the 2018 season, but we were losing every game that we lost by like 3 points. They were all like right there.
Yes,
It was a
yes,
weird,
Yeah.
it was
like we
so
could
close.
have been. It was such a weird season, and to lose like that because of the refs, I'm still angry about it. Like I'm getting hot thinking about that.
I remember being angry about that moment too. I was watching it. I remember it clear as day. I was watching it at my parents' house. I was me, my stepdad, my mom were literally dropping F bombs at the TV as soon as they were like, this call is overturned. That's the craziest part to me is the fact that they called it a first down on the field,
Right.
reviewed it, and brought the chain out and said, not turnover on downs or fourth down or whatever the hell it was. And we end up going on to lose that game.
It's nearly as bad as that Michigan game where they gave Michigan the first down when it was clearly short. Like he moved the ball. You guys remember that? And then the whole ball doesn't lie. He fumbled on the next play. It's
Wild.
almost as bad as that.
Yeah.
All right, but imagine you're a basketball player. Let me put you in the shoes, right? Most of us played basketball on the show. at least at a younger level. And when you're on the bench and you're not in at the time, what are you doing? You're yucking it up with your buddies, right? You're watching the game, but you're chatting with, Ben's to my left, Noah's to my right. You're having a good time on the bench. I want you to imagine that you're having that good time on the bench and you're laughing, who knows what about, and all of a sudden you get teed up and thrown out of the game. Noah, roll the clip.
Howard now drives inside right over Alberto, and a blocking foul. As Joey Crawford saying Alberto moving. Ted Popovich doesn't like that one either. And another technical foul. And this was when Duncan's out of the game. He's thrown Duncan out of the game. Crawford now walking over. That's the second technical, which is an automatic ejection. As we've been showing you, Duncan's been laughing. Maybe Crawford felt he was showing him up by constantly.
I want you to keep in mind that Tim Duncan was one of the nicest guys in the NBA. Great player, but he wasn't like saying F off to the ref before that clip started or anything like that. He's just laughing on the bench and gets teed up and thrown out.
That clip was insane to me. I obviously did not see it in real time. It's just funny to me. It does seem like he's laughing a little bit about a bad call, and the ref, instead of, swallowing his pride as a referee kind of has to as part of the job, takes it out on Tim Duncan and says, nope, you're out for laughing at me, which is crazy either way you spin it.
NBA has had that over the years where the refs take over a game and just eject people for no reason. It seems like they have the most latitude sometimes, which is interesting. There was a part of that clip though too, and I think I was watching that game live too, which is wild. Noah, you missed some really good basketball with those Spurs teams.
For sure.
You had Manu Ginobili as coming off the bench as sixth man that would start for like any team.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they were good.
Part of that clip that I questioned too is towards the end. When the players are kind of standing around like confused and Tim Duncan hasn't left yet, there's a cop that like interjects himself into that scene and is like saying, come here kind of thing. What are you doing? I don't think it's your job to ensure that he's escorted off promptly. I don't know. I found that strange.
It was weird for sure. Just to be clear, too, I was around when Manu Ginobili was a part of the team and Tony Parker and before Kawhi. I do remember some of those teams.
But we're talking about, you watched when you were 6?
That I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11. They were starting to phase out at that point.
I was going to say, to be fair, when the Spurs first came on with Popovich and all those guys, you had to be at least too young to remember it well. If not, yeah, I was like towards the end for sure, but early on, like
I remember those teams though for sure. Go ahead, Eric.
I got one more, and I think this is the worst referee moment in sports history. Honestly, I was a pitcher my whole life. I grew up playing baseball, and when you're a kid, you're in the basement alone. I was an only child, but you're in the basement alone, and you're working on your pitching and you're pretending that, it's normally like game 7 of the World Series and it's the final out kind of thing. Or maybe you're pretending that you've thrown a perfect game and you have one more out to get. Well, in this case, it was a perfect game and they got that final out, except maybe not. Roll it.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
That still pains me to this day. And I do want to give credit to the ump there. Jim Joyce blew that call, and it is what changed. That's what added replay in Major League Baseball. After that, the next year, they implemented it. But to Jim Joyce's credit, he was tearful. I mean, he was so apologetic that he blew that call. It wasn't like trying to interject himself in the moment or anything like that. He just missed it. But to tell you how rare a perfect game is, I still can't believe.
Less than 30,
right?
All
over again.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that MLB didn't just retroactively award him the perfect game. Because
so they didn't, but they did. Everybody else did. Chevy gave him
he's not in the record books.
no,
Right.
no.
Where it
But
matters most
Then he
is still
doesn't
not
have a
there.
perfect game. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
like
didn't-
saying
whoa, whoa, whoa,
everybody
whoa, whoa,
everybody
wait, slow down,
says
slow down. I didn't say it was okay. I didn't say it was right. All I was trying to say was that some company had $1 million bonus to somebody who got a no-hitter. He got the mill. And Chevy said they'd give a Corvette if anybody threw a perfect game, and he got the Corvette. I wasn't going to say it was okay.
none of that matters.
It does matter. It just doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's like saying that,
everybody.
Hold on, let me finish. Everybody thinks I'm talking. Everybody thinks.
Hold on.
That's like saying everybody thinks because of extended games, steroids, etc., that Babe Ruth should be the true home run king. Well, he's not. He's no longer in the history books as the home run king. It doesn't matter if they retroactively gave him a Corvette. He's not in the history books. It does not matter.
The main mattering point.
The biggest point is the record books. It's not the only point. I think if I said, hey, Eric, would you rather have $1 million in a Corvette or not? You wouldn't say it doesn't matter. But I get what you're saying.
This is a Major League Baseball player.
He probably already had the Corvette.
He probably wanted the record.
Yeah, I agreed. I'm sure he wanted the record.
Worst ref moment in history.
It was bad. It was bad.
So I took this a different route. Well, we'll get to the Browns for a second. Of course, the football guys got to spin it back to the Browns before we pass it off to John. Actually, both of mine are from football. This is the worst, best ref moment to me in history. Let me roll the clips.
Intentional grounding. Offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here. Excuse me. It's a 10-yard penalty and a loss of down. Second down.
That is the best line I've ever heard out of an official. We'll get to the penalty in a minute. He just told Geno Smith, I'm talking to America. Pete Carroll is livid.
I want to know why you think worst best, because I love that clip. I think
it's hilarious. Don't get me wrong, but like I'm talking to America. I don't know. It's just a little corny to me. Like I'm talking to America.
I was watching that game live.
What? You were at that game?
I was watching that game. I wasn't at it, but I was watching live, and I remember laughing out loud when he did that.
It's definitely funny, and I wanted to take it a lighthearted route before we get back into some of the doom and gloom and pain that we have to deal with the name that is across my forehead and my T-shirt.
That's fair.
So let's go into the next one, right? Because the next one still pains me to this day. I think it was a franchise alterer for the Cleveland Browns. Let me roll the clip.
First half defensively allowed the fewest points, but the Browns are trying to defy that. As they hit at the 5 to Higgins, he lost the football as he reached for the pylon, and they ruin a touchback.
That moment, to this day, what was going on in my life, where I was, is still ingrained in my brain. I was sitting in my sophomore year dorm room, drinking way too many beers, watching the game with all the Browns football fan friends that I had. I threw my beer at the wall. I was so upset when they overturned it. Had to clean that whole thing up. And to this day, if that play goes the different way, they call it the targeting, they let the touchdown go, whatever you want to say, I think we are looking at a completely different outlook with this Cleveland Browns team. And it still irks me to this day.
Pinpoint that moment in history.
It hurts.
Of where the Browns franchise once again fell by the wayside.
John, you're last up for us here. So I'm going to let you talk and tell me when you want me to play the clip, man.
Yeah, I will. I'll tee you up. There were a couple that came to mind while you guys were watching that. The Fail Mary, where there's a clip of one ref saying incomplete while the other one's saying touchdown on the same catch in the same end zone with the Packers. There were a few different things, but the one that sticks, the no-hitter one was awful. That was an abomination. I just felt awful for them. And the Indians were in the game. But the one that sticks with me was one because I was at the game. So let me paint a picture for you. It's become known as Bottlegate. Spoiler alert if you know what that is. But it's week 14. My dad gets tickets from a friend of a friend who's a priest. So it's me, my dad, and a priest at a game. And we're sitting there, and it's just great theater. The Browns have been terrible for a long time. Tim Couch is finally starting to turn the corner with Butch Davis. Browns are 6-6. They need a win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And Tim Couch has been getting killed his whole career, and he actually looked like a functional quarterback. Side note and hot take, I think Tim Couch would have been great if we had a non-expansion team with an offensive line. I think it'd have been a pretty good quarterback. But neither here nor there. We're down 5. There's a minute left, and the Browns had a 4th and 2 in the red zone. It was like the Jaguars 10. Tim Couch got the pass, dumped it to Quincy Morgan, caught it for a 3-yard gain, goes down, got the first down. We come to the line. We run another play, and we hear whistles after the snap. Now, this was early on in the age of review, and people didn't have it all figured out. But Couch rushed everybody up, got the next play off, and spiked the ball, and only like 20 seconds had run off the clock. The rule is and always has been, if the next play starts, you don't get to go back and review the play. We got the play off. We spiked the ball. The refs blew it dead anyway, went and reviewed it for like 40 hours, and then came out and said they had overturned the result of the previous play. It was a turnover on downs, and they gave the ball to the Jaguars. I still remember, people call it Bottlegate, and rightfully so, because that's most of what was coming down. But I remember people throwing radios, batteries, dog biscuits. Yeah, man. Somebody got like, not like a boombox, but like the little, pocket radio. Like,
no kidding.
It was. I've been at a lot of Rowdy Browns games. I've been at a lot of Rowdy Muni lots. I've seen a lot in Cleveland football, and I've never once been like, this is a little scary, because I was one of the guys, right? Like, you're not going to get messed up. You're not a Steelers fan. You're not going to get in shit because you're not a Ravens fan. I was like, this is crazy. We were under the overhang on the first level. And had we been out and exposed, we definitely would have bailed. But it was one of the most unbelievable moments in sports history. And they changed rules. They changed how you review. They changed how you buzz refs. They changed how you serve alcohol in pro football stadiums, all because of this one moment in this one game. That was the biggest one for me, was definitely Bottlegate.
Let me play that clip for you, man.
Oh, shit. I forgot. I'm sorry, Noah.
So they say he was juggling the ball. And what Butch Davis is saying right now is we ran another play.
Fortunately, those bottles are plastic.
But these fans aren't helping any right now by throwing stuff on the field. They got to know better than that. And it's frustrating. The players are frustrating as well. And it's ridiculous. You're only hurting yourselves by throwing stuff on the field.
And the officials are pummeled as they head into the locker room.
That is still so crazy to me, the scene. I get the frustration, so it's hard to like be mad at the fans, but that's also not the way you should act ever, I feel like. You just don't act like that, but I also totally get the frustration there.
I don't know,
will
man.
say
Some
one
things
thing.
deserve it.
Yeah, those
They
refs
deserve
going.
it?
Some things are deserved, is all I'm saying.
I'll tell you something else, Noah, that'll blow your mind, but this is where the old man gets to tell the young kid how you guys are turning into a bunch of, sissies who can't handle stuff, and stuff used to be different when football was a man's game. I grew up going to games at Municipal Stadium where there were no rules. People would carry kegs in dog houses, throw Alpo cans and dog biscuits. My dad played football at Benedictine in Miami of Ohio, about 6'9", 275. He had a part-time job working the Browns games on the visitors' sideline. Got to meet Mike Ditka, Bill Cowher, the list goes on and on. The number of things he told me he got said to him and thrown at him as he was walking the opponent players off the field at the old stadium would probably make your hair curl. I kid you not. Like, that was, if that whole scene happens in 1978, we probably don't even know about it. Like, pro football was different in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. I just don't know how else to say it. It was wild.
This wasn't the early 90s, though, to be fair. This was post-expansion, and it's just crazy to me. I mean,
this was early 2000s.
What did I say?
I
said
early
post-expansion. 90s. You said, yeah, I thought you were comparing it to early 90s. Anyway,
this was a spillover. Yeah, not too long after that. So
yeah, that point doesn't matter. It's still, to me, like, I don't know, man. That's another rough moment as a Cleveland fan to look at. It's up there with the Deshaun Watson cheering, booing, whatever you want to call that moment.
Oh, the
I think it's
injury.
on the injury. I think it's just a rough moment, man. It is a rough look for us as a city who is a passionate fan base that I don't think typically acts super out of character, but there's definitely examples there in history.